Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to Season 4 of the Cohesive Home Podcast. We've been recording this podcast for 2 years now, so a huge thank you to all of you who've been with us from the beginning, as well as those of you who are just joining us. We're so grateful for each and every one of you. Today on episode 42, we're talking about how to overcome the fears that arise when you go after big dreams.
So we know that with the new year, most of you are thinking about goal setting and habit shifts, which we are all about. But from our own experience, we know that until you tame your fears, it will be super hard to go after your dreams and achieve your goals.
So brace yourselves for a longish episode because we want to really unpack the topic of fears and encourage you to find freedom from them. We're going to dig into why we are fearful and where they come from, how to use your fears as fuel to move forward in your life, and a bit of an action plan for achieving your dreams despite your fears.
This is actually a really big deal episode for us because, first, we put off recording it for some time because we felt like it was such a big topic to unpack. But we also have just our own experiences facing down fears. And actually, I am totally in that stage right now as we're preparing to hit the road. So I feel like I can really speak to fears right now.
Yeah, and I feel like right now is the best time for us to talk about it because you're kind of in the thick of it. And so I think it was best that we waited. And also for everyone listening, you may not be making huge life choices right now, but it is the beginning of a new year. So you'll be able to probably implement some of these ideas into your life no matter what.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And by no means are we saying that, you have to make some big leap into the unknown, but we all have fears. We all have dreams, and being able to go after those dreams despite the fears is, really important to moving forward in our lives.
So that being said, Kate, you guys are making some big changes come this next month, really. And what are some of your fears that you've had to kind of face down? I mean, I'm sure everyone is wanting to know.
Oh, I so wanted to talk about this.
You knew I was going to bring it up.
I know, right? I know. Okay, so for those of you listening, my fears are probably just the same as yours. I do worry about how what we're doing looks to other people. And also, I worry about what this new stage of our lives will look like, if the kids will thrive and be happy, and I'm pretty sure they will, or I wouldn't be doing it. But, I have all the typical fears you have right before you make a big life change, and they usually come like in the middle of the night. I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we doing?
Yeah, or you get up to feed the baby and you're like,
Yeah, and can't go back to sleep. But no, this is so natural, and I think it's such an important part of the process, and so that's why really we wanted to talk about this, is because we know that we're not alone in feeling this way.
No, not at all.
And so if our experiences can encourage you, you hope that that'll be helpful.
Yeah.
Well, Melissa, and I know my family's not the only ones going after dreams, so tell me, what are some of your fears? Like, where are you guys as a family right now, and what fears are cropping up as you go after your dreams?
So for us, fears, and we'll get into this, but I feel like fears can be good too. They're there, for a reason sometimes to maybe protect you. And so for us, my husband and I have really been grappling with trying to determine if it's fear or if it's just a bad choice for our family, like a door is closing, So we had some plans of doing some full-time traveling, like Kate and her family. And over the holiday break, we have just really felt that is not the direction our family is probably going to be going in, is full-time. We had to really figure out what our family valued most, and for us, it's international travel. So our goal for 2018 is to start doing that again. Now, if we're not able to, we'll reevaluate and maybe we'll just do a little bit of traveling here in the States. But for me and my family, the fear issue, we're not, like, we have our fears, but we're not quite there yet because we're still having to figure out our plan.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of in the beginning and Kate's kind of at the end. So we'll kind of talk about, Oh, and I could also talk about, I'm starting a candle line. And so that makes me fearful. I'm probably more fearful about that than making choices because it has to do with money. So
yeah,
we can unpack a lot. Yeah.
Oh, totally. And we'll definitely talk about money here in a minute because a big fear for most people with moving forward.
So so do you want to kind of just start touching on why? Yeah. Why are we so fearful all the time? There's so many reasons.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there really are. And I think, as humans, we have fears for a reason, right? They would protect us from serious danger or harm. And, our ancestors, a long, long, long time ago, needed those fears to keep them safe because they had like really serious dangers, like wild animals, risk of running out of food, weather changes, and just like shelter. I mean, like we're talking about like really basic needs. And so I think, right, we all have kind of that fear mechanism to keep us safe.
But I mean, we're not having to run away from animals. Thank God. I mean, that would be awful. We have most of our basic needs. I mean, if you are blessed enough for that, we have our basic needs met. We're not having to live in that fight or flight, kind of mindset all the time.
But, I think for that reason, because, a lot of us, like you said, are blessed to have our basic needs met. Things that maybe we shouldn't be fearful of become major fears.
Yeah.
Right. And, we don't have to go into this, but like stress and anxiety, that fight or flight reaction, for some people, that's kind of a daily thing.
Mm-hmm. Whether that's through the media, propagating that. Let's not even, that's a whole nother episode.
Whole nother episode. Let's stick to dreams.
Oh, yeah. The media. Love them. Says the woman with the broadcasting degree.
Right.
I mean, it can be anything from that or extended family, propagating a fear in your life based on what they want you to do. So, I mean, it could be anything, but they're more social fears almost than physical ones, for the most part.
Yes, you are so right, Melissa. It's like, there's that social pressure that I think we all experience to live life a certain way. And, if we step outside the norm, there is so much social pushback.
Yeah. Yep. Because it makes them uncomfortable. They're like, well, why are you... I should say it's twofold. It makes some people uncomfortable, or it makes some people upset that someone would want to do something different.
Right.
Like, why? Why would you... is this not good enough for you? That kind of a thing.
Yes. And so a good example of that would be homeschooling. Right? Yeah. If you're listening and maybe you're thinking about, homeschooling your kids next year. Well, you're going to probably face a lot of social pressure because it's outside the norm. Or if you change your diet, like you change the way you eat, and it's different from your family and friends, you might experience pushback on that.
Oh, man. I'm like the quintessential black sheep of our family. I basically make really our family, like Brandon and I, we make really different choices in most areas of our life. So food, schooling, everything. I can't even, and so our family, I think they're used to it now, but it's still, the pushback from family. We've talked about that in other episodes, but it's pretty bad. So anyway.
Oh my gosh. Although I will say, to counter that, you know, we had our food episode where we talked about like the food changes we had made and how we were eating mostly plant-based.
Yeah.
And at the time, my parents weren't, you know, they were just eating kind of their way of eating. And since then, my parents have gone vegan. So people.
That is so awesome.
It is amazing. And it's so people do change and families can change. And you know what? You may feel like the black sheep in your family, but you may also be the trailblazer. So don't let that stop you from showing others different ways of living, because it can be inspiring.
So I really feel strongly that even though we are making choices that are kind of against the status quo, and they, like you said, they can really resonate with people and it can help change. However, when you're making these choices, you have that fear. That fear comes up of, maybe this isn't the right choice. Maybe I should be doing this other thing, because, you know, you may not say, oh, it's easier, but it is easier. That to stay the way you were or to stay doing the thing that you were doing is easier.
Yes.
And that fear isn't there. And so you're like, oh, my life is so much better without that. This must be where I need to stay. But that can become sort of like a straitjacket. You know what I mean? It can kind of keep your arms folded in and saying, nope, I'm good, I'm great, I'm cozy here, I feel awesome, and you're never going to move forward. And so as much as, and this is something I really wanted to make sure I said, was fear can be good as far as like keeping you safe. You know, if an animal is chasing you, you need to run. However, you have to have discernment in, okay, am I having fear because I just don't know what the outcome is going to be? Or because someone is making me feel like this is the wrong choice? Or is it because you're just really scared?
Yeah.
I don't know how to say that any other way. It's kind of hard to explain, but.
No, that was beautiful, Melissa. Just a lot of wisdom in what you just said. And I was like listening to you, and it spoke to me, because, I mean, we talked on the phone the other day about how I am, it's cold out. My house is cozy, and change is hard for me this time of year. We just came off of the holidays, and I feel all snug in our little house, and I'm like, do I really want to move? Do I really want to sell my house? Because it's going to be so hard. But sometimes we have to choose discomfort in the short term to achieve our long-term goals that align so much better with our values. So I know, I don't really want to do any packing. I don't really want to have to go through all the effort to sell my house. But I know that the outcome of getting to travel with my family is going to be worth the short-term pain.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Exactly. So to kind of piggyback with what I was saying, we wanted to touch on how to embrace your fears and using those fears as motivation and not a stumbling block. So sometimes if you're scared, that means that it's something that's really important, or it's something you really do need to be doing in your life, because that fear is it's kind of the unknown. I feel like that's a lot of times where fear comes from, is that you've not experienced this before. There's not a handbook that's laying around that says, okay, this is how you're going to get through this. I mean, you can go on YouTube. That helps actually quite a bit to punch fear in the face. YouTube.
There you go.
I'll be the first to admit.
It's so funny that you mentioned YouTube, because I am serious. Like last night, I was feeling kind of scared. And so I was like, you know what? I can either like sit in this fear and let it just run away, let my fears run away from me, or I can be actually proactive. And so I did a little bit of journaling, like my little freak out on paper, because I process everything through writing. And then I totally got on YouTube and I watched some inspirational videos about traveling families, and I was like, yes, yes, this
Yep.
is why we're doing it. And we all need those reminders from time to time.
Right. So I do. I love YouTube. I love just finding inspiration from other people that may have done it. That that they leave, a booklet behind that says, "Hey, this is how you do it." And it kind of gives you encouragement and allows you to kind of follow a path in a way. However, like when we moved to Germany, another way you can do it is you just pull it off like a Band-Aid. You just go, "Oh, you want to do this? Okay, go." You don't wait. You don't let it fester. You don't let the fear fester. I hate the word fester, by the way.
It's a gross word. It's gross.
It is a really gross word. Sorry, guys. And so you don't let it. You don't stew in it. Is that better?
That makes me.
I don't know if that's better.
I was like, makes me think of like a dirty diaper. Moving on.
Festering stew. Okay, but you get the point. You have to listen to your intuition, and I feel like whether that's whatever you want to call that, but through prayer or quiet time and meditation, or just listening to your breath, just sitting in that moment and being still and kind of trying to listen, and having wisdom too. I feel like wisdom comes with the listening. So listening to your intuition is a really good way, other than YouTube, to and the Band-Aid thing, obviously, is to just listen to yourself and try and find that path for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, we have so many influences from people around us that are in our communities, to just ideas that we've kind of internalized over the years about the way that we should be living our days. And so, like Melissa was saying, strengthening your inner resolve and really listening to what is your gut saying. Doing a gut check, like, is this what we really want as a family? And if that answer is yes, moving forward. And I would say that's definitely something that takes practice, especially if, you're a little rusty with listening to what you really want. But it's a good habit to cultivate, to listen to your own voice instead of that of others.
So now that you have figured out how you're going to face that fear and get over that fear, how do you move forward? How do you protect your dream that you and your family have chosen, that path that you've chosen to go on? And how do you move forward with that?
So the first thing that we strongly recommend is don't ask other people for permission to go after your dream. Just don't. I would say that, it feels comforting to reach out to a committee like, "Hey guys, what do you think about, like, we're thinking about doing X, Y, and Z." But if the people that you reach out to are not supportive, it can very quickly squash your dream.
Very, 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 very quickly. I mean, it's almost ridiculous how the people that you surround yourself with or that you reach out to, it can crush you. It can really crush you. And here's the funny thing. Even if, for instance, Kate knows I do this a lot. My husband knows I do this a lot. I have ideas and I bounce them off of you guys a lot. Or I'll even bounce them off of other people, but I know the people to bounce them off of, because if it's someone that I'm not close with and they don't understand who I am, they take it as something that I've already decided to do, or they just automatically think of all the reasons why I shouldn't do it, and they're not helping me in any way whatsoever. So
Yeah.
even what I'm trying to say here is, even if it's something that you're still just kind of figuring out, you're like, oh, I think, like with us, we're like, oh, we'd really like to travel full time. okay, well, maybe that's not going to work out for us this time. That's okay. We're flexible. But I had some people who just straight up, what? Why would you want to do that? Like, that sounds awful. I would never want to put my family in that situation. And that can really be devastating to any dream. It doesn't matter how big or little it is.
Yeah.
So even, and I should say, and so even if you think someone like your family, a family member, you think they're going to be encouraging no matter what, but just be prepared that that's not going to happen. So just have wisdom and like a discernment in who you decide to talk to. And this is actually not the first time I've heard this. I was watching YouTube videos of this family. I think their YouTube channel is Don't Quit Your Daydream. I think we'll link to it. Anyway, they gave some really good advice, and they even said that they quickly found that once they decided that that was what they were going to do and travel, and it was just for 6 months at the beginning, they quickly found out who they wanted to tell and who they didn't want to tell. And they'd had to have just a really hard look at, their closest friends and family and decide, okay, we're going to do this no matter what. So let's just not talk to anybody about it unless we know they're going to be incredibly supportive.
Yes.
So that was a really long ramble about that, but it's very important.
It was a good ramble. So yes, like Melissa said, surround yourself with people who will encourage you and support you no matter what. And you probably already have an idea who those people are in your life, and maybe who you should wait to share your dream with until you're like ready to do it. Like, okay, hey, this is what we're doing. Surprise.
Mm-hmm.
And so only you can determine like when is the best time to let people know what you are doing as a family. But we just want to encourage you to think deeply on what your role in your life is going to be when it comes to going after dreams. Because once you step off of the traditional path of what like society expects of you, you are going to feel different. And so make that decision. Are you ready to be a trailblazer and go after your family's dreams? Or do you want to stay in the pack? And we are not saying that one is better than the other, but know where you feel comfortable and when is the timing right for you and your family to move forward.
Right. Which brings us to our next point of setting a deadline. And this is something I have to say, I will take credit for. Oh, Kate. In the last few months, we would talk a lot about the goals and the dreams your family had. And on those times that you were really questioning, I'd say, set a goal, set a date, set a time that you're comfortable with. And if it hasn't happened at that point, then reevaluate. But don't just say no right now. Sometimes executing a dream does not happen immediately, and that's okay.
And I have really appreciated all of your encouragement, Melissa, because yeah, you're right. We would probably just keep sitting and stewing on it. Had to bring that word back.
Woohoo!
Right? But, I found that a change of scenery can help you move forward on a dream. Like if you're kind of sitting on something and you're a little scared to move forward. We went on a family vacation to Florida in November. And I am telling you, man, getting out of the cold weather and being in the sunshine and just out of our normal routine, breaking those, habitual actions we do every day, was huge for us. And so, we listened to podcasts on the drive, and I read a book out loud to Kirk that was very inspiring. And by the end of the trip, we had a timeline, like a date by date, like we're going to do this on this day, then this, all the way to our launch. And so I encourage you, if you're listening and you have a dream and you're ready to move forward, set that date and think on it. Pray about it. If you pray, meditate, do whatever, and visualize yourself achieving that goal, and it will happen.
Loved it.
Bam.
That was really good. That was awesome. So.
Do you want to just talk about as you get closer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so if you do have some time between deciding and doing, that fear is definitely going to rear its ugly head. I mean, unless you are like Brandon and I, when we made that first choice of moving, it was 30 days. We sold our house and we moved. So we didn't have time to really sit and really be fearful. We just did. We just did it. But that's really not reality for most people. And that's not reality for us now either.
Well, I think you're so right, Melissa. There are two paths when we're going after our family's dreams. There's we're just jumping in the deep end and come what may. And that's fun and that's wild. And that can be a great adventure for your family. And then there's also the slower, more methodical, we want to make sure that this is the right choice. We're going to move slowly toward it and get everything perfect before we go. And I think there's no right or wrong path. Just know that the longer it takes you to get to your destination of whatever it is that you're choosing, the more likely you're going to experience fears and, negative feedback from other people. And so you got to continually remind yourself why you made this choice in the first place and why you're on this path.
Yep. I always compare it to why I got married in 4 months.
You did?
Yes. Well, we dated for a year.
Oh.
But from when we got engaged, we got married within 4 months because,
shotgun wedding, right?
Yeah, kind of. Not as much as my parents. They got married in 3 weeks.
Wow.
From the time they got engaged. Yeah, crazy. But, which, by the way, they're about to have their 40th wedding anniversary. Shout out to my parents who probably don't listen to the podcast.
Thanks, Mom and Dad.
Love you.
And congrats.
Yeah. Anyway, we got married in 4 months. So there are things that I look back and go, oh man, I wish I had more time to make that better within my wedding. I mean, not really now, but at the time, I look back and I go, oh, it was great because I only had 4 months and I had to make a decision and I couldn't change it. That was the choice and I had to stick to it. And that's kind of goes back to why we were saying, you have the goal and maybe make a deadline, is because you make a choice and you stick with it. And there's something about that really helps.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
The fear can't rear its ugly head as much either. So.
And if you do feel those fears arising, go back to your group, your inner circle of encouraging friends, lean on them. Maybe perhaps find a cohesive homies group in your area. I mean, just saying, might be an option.
Just saying. I think that would be really smart. Because there are a lot of people out there that are encouragers. But at the same time, and this is something I really, really wanted to touch on, even if you have these people, say, for instance, I'm going to just use Kate and I as an example. There's times when I say, oh, what about this idea? Or this is something we're talking about. And what we do as friends is we kind of hash out the scenarios. Okay, I'm not trying to put fear in you, but is this something that is what your family wants? Is this line up with the values that you've already kind of discussed and you know your family abides by? Did I say that right? Yeah, there we go. And so we want to encourage you that even if somebody says, oh, but what about this? You can take that and not use it to perpetuate fear, but instead use it to your advantage, really. Just use it to say, okay, this is a scenario that I need to think about. And then if you can overcome that and say, yes, this is still good, then it's a confirmation. So that's kind of the difference between somebody who's just poo-pooing on your dream and somebody who can really uplift you even in the conversation of just the, I don't know, a well-rounded conversation about the topic. I don't know how else to say that.
It sounded great. So good.
Thanks.
So good.
Thanks.
Oh,
I'm a rambler.
you know what? I love that about you. I love it.
No, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kate.
Okay, well, we know that we said a lot in this episode. This is kind of heavy. We hope that you're ready for it. We also hope that it just encourages you that fear, it's not a dead end. It's just an invitation to move in a new direction. So examine your fears, but do not let them control your days or stifle your family's dreams. We believe in you and your family and all of the amazing dreams that you are going to achieve in 2018. So we want to see you get out there and make it happen.
And if you have any questions or feedback related to this episode, or any episode really, reach out to us at hello@cohesivehome.com. We would love to know what you thought about this episode and how it's helping you to move forward. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.